night.
Is there anybody new here?
Thank you.
How'd you find us?
Meetup.
Nice. Your name?
Ricky.
Nice. Welcome, Ricky. Perfect. So, as always, special thanks to all of our sponsors. I'm not going to read them all. You can see them all. We're going to have swag draws at the end from some or most of the people, so stick around for that. The red tickets are going around right now, so that's what those are for. As always, we need sponsors for our group. So if you're a company or you know of a company that would love to sponsor us, please get in touch with me. That would be great. We have 2 sessions left, so we're looking for sponsors for our final 2 sessions. The sponsors help pay for the room as well for the pizza and the pop.
So you take a break during the summer?
We do. So we'll be off July and August, then we'll be back
That makes
September.
sense.
Yeah.
Perfect sense.
Everyone's on holidays, so. As always, once you're done with the meetup, please visit our page, rate the meetup. Microsoft looks at our ratings and our comments to make sure that we're a viable group, so please do that. As well, we do have a careers page, so if you are interested in a new job, check us out on there.
Oh, you do? Oh, okay.
Yeah. Something new that we started this year is looking for work or looking for workers. Or is there anybody here looking for work? Yes, sir. You want to stand up and tell us a little bit about yourself?
Okay. I'm a recent graduate from Trios College in the web development program, and I'm looking for front-end or back-end development in the field.
Cool. Any particular languages or anything that you want?
Well, we covered a lot of front-end like HTML, CSS, JavaScript, Java,
Okay.
and SQL, ASP.NET, and C#, and also picked up Python for the back-end.
Nice. Great. Is there anybody looking for workers? Anybody's company looking for workers or anything like that? No? Okay. Well, we'll continue on. A few upcoming events. This weekend, I put this one first. This is a big thing. There are 255 global Azure boot camps or something like that going around the world, all on the same day. The Toronto edition is happening this Saturday at the TELUS building. There are still tickets available for $5. You can go down and learn all about Azure, as well as get a meal. It's a great deal. So if you are interested, check out Toronto Azure Bootcamp out of eventbrite.ca. It's going to be a pretty amazing event. As I said, this is going to be the largest global Azure bootcamp ever, and it's in its 5th year, so it's really taken off.
So what's happening there?
There is going to be talks all about like DevOps and web apps, and I think there's like VMs, and each camp can be set up differently. Microsoft provides the content, and it's however they want to structure it. So you just go down, and it's basically hands-on learning for the day, so which is really good. You might have noticed that we haven't announced our next meetup. I'm still trying to get the finalization, which we might have just done. So our next meetup is going to be May 24th at Country Hills. The final 2 meetups are not going to be here. They're going to be back over in Country Hills, so just keep that in mind. I will try to get a newsletter out as well as announce it in the next couple of days. So keep your eye out for that. As well, London.NET developers, so Tom Walker's group, is doing a talk on what's new in Visual Studio 2017. That's April 26th, so that's next Wednesday. There's a bunch of stuff going on. Tomorrow is Andrei Marukovich is talking about the modern .NET ecosystem at Mississauga.net, and that's just down the road at the Tech Systems, thank you, Tech Systems building. Hacker Nest is again running May 8th. I looked at it today. I think they had like almost 100 people signed up, so really good crowd going to that one as well. So if you're interested in Hacker Nest, check that guy out. As well as the next version of the Internet of Things Waterloo meetup is coming. That's April 27th, so that's next Thursday. 31 going is wrong. I checked it today. It's over 130 or 120, something like that. It's a really big group. I know there's several people here that have already signed up, so if you're interested in checking it out, they don't meet every month, so this might be the final one for maybe till the fall. They haven't announced that, but I know they take breaks as well, so you might want to check that out. WIT Pro, which is Waterloo Wellington IT Professional Group, they meet down at Trios down the street at Market Square on April 24th, and they're going to be doing a 2-pack of Linux and deploying third-party applications. And a couple final announcements. Dev Teach is happening again this summer in Montreal, July 3rd through 7th. If you are interested in going, there's a code here that you can use to get $100 off. As well as Prairie DevCon, which Lori and I will be attending and speaking at, and that's going to happen June 6th and 7th, and there's a early bird discount until April the 30th.
I want to say something. So, I don't know if any of you know who Rafi Lata is, but he's going to be doing a keynote presentation at Prairie DevCon. And this year is the best time to go to Canadian conferences and not travel internationally, considering the turmoil that's going on. So definitely recommend looking at Prairie DevCon. I think their early bird rate is around $550, which is a steal for a 2-day conference. And then Dev Teach in Montreal, it's during the Canada's 150th celebration, so there's going to be a lot of fun stuff to do in Montreal as well.
Yeah,
and you must go to conferences.
And it's also the 375th anniversary of Montreal, and I think there's fireworks going on, the jazz festival, and all kinds of crazy stuff. So if you're interested in traveling in either parts of the country, check them out. So that brings up Sage. So tonight's presentation is building a cloud-powered conversation bot, and tonight's speaker is Sage Franch, and she's a tech evangelist with Microsoft Canada, and she's into all the bot building lately. I've been following her tweets, and she's been heavily doing that and going around to different areas. I know you did it in Vancouver a little while back and stuff, so she's got tons of experience, and it should be fun. So if you're interested in building a bot, follow along, and let's welcome Sage.
I'm really excited to be here. I don't do a lot of meetups in the Kitchener-Waterloo area. I'm mainly downtown Toronto, Mississauga area, so this is great. I do a lot of work with the university. I am a tech evangelist at Microsoft, and I've been at Microsoft for about 3 years now. I used to work more in the .NET space. I was teaching Windows 10 app development and a bunch of courses for edX.org in my previous life as a content developer over at Microsoft Learning. And now my job is way cooler, and I get to actually specialize in emerging tech. So I work primarily with artificial intelligence, with our machine learning and different services surrounding that in the cloud. Chatbots is a big area of focus for me, as well as the uber cool HoloLens mixed reality, which is like my everyday sci-fi geek out moment. So yes, I'm excited to bring conversation bots today. I will sync up my machine. And Ken mentioned that I was out in Vancouver building a bot. I will be telling that story today as well. We see a lot of bots that are built for ordering pizza or like really frivolous things that just, bots for the sake of building bots, right? But if you look at the bot idea and conversations as a platform, which is Microsoft's real foray into the bot world and artificial intelligence, bots go so far beyond, hey, I want to order a cheese pizza to my dorm room, which is what we always see. So that's what we're going to talk about today. All right. And I have been known to debug bots over Twitter, so if anyone is following along and wants to work on the bot afterwards, feel free to tweet me. Or if you have any questions, want to come to any other meetups that I do, outside of this area or at this area, feel free to reach out. So what we're going to do is we're going to set the stage for bots. Talk a little bit about the background, why bots are coming out today as opposed to, down the line, why chatbots are actually starting to become important for developers and for businesses as a whole. Then we're going to talk about building a bot, the technology that we use to build the ViaSport bot, which is a chatbot for athletes with disabilities. That was the project I did in Vancouver. Then we're going to talk quickly about the future of conversational AI, conversations as a platform, and then we're going to build a bot. So again, if anyone wants to follow along, please do, or look over the shoulders of someone else who is doing it so you can peer program. That's a thing, right? Okay, so first of all, who has no idea what a bot is? Cool. I have been in rooms before where people are like, I actually have no idea. So that's good. Bots are a really old idea, but with a new flavor. So the way I'll position this is bots and this whole conversational interface idea is following this line of this once-in-a-decade technology shift. So back in the 80s, we had the PC, which revolutionized computing, right? It was admittedly before my time, but it changed things. We no longer had to work just with the command line interface, right? It made computing for everyone, democratized computing. So in the 90s, we had the internet, which was the first time we really had this query response interaction on a large scale and in a really consumable way for the average person. Then in the 2000s, mobile came around, and then apps was the message coming from every single company. We had app developers just coming out of the woodwork, building stuff, and this new way of interacting with computing once again. So we're seeing this trend. Every decade, there seems to be this new wave of computing that changes everything. And in the 2010s, it has been messaging. So bots and agents have started to come out. We're actually seeing the use of conversational apps and conversational interfaces surpassing the use of traditional social networks for the first time in 2015. So for a long time, Facebook, Instagram remained king, the social networks way of interacting with one another. But then in 2015, WhatsApp and Snapchat and all these messaging apps, including Messenger even, all these big social networks are changing their tune and moving more towards collaborative, quicker interactions through messaging, and that's where bots fit in. So to clear the air, because there are some misconceptions around the buzzword of bots, bots are effectively software that performs one or more automated tasks. So many people think that bots are exclusively robots, or bots are exclusively chatbots, but that's absolutely not the case. They're essentially just apps with a new interface. So we really need to get rid of this notion that bots are specifically this entirely new application or a new way of or a new thing you have to create net new from the ground up. It's something that you can add on to existing applications, existing experiences to streamline the user interaction experience. What bots are not always artificially intelligent. So you can have a bot that is just function only. You can have a bot that doesn't even interact with the user. Bots are also not always text-based. So you may have a bot that just performs an automated task between two applications. You may have a bot that works in the background. You never even know that it's there at all. Twitter bots, Instagram bots, social media bots are a notorious example of this. They're terrible. I have a blog myself, and bots are just the bane of my existence in that case. But when we talk about bots as a new way of interacting and a new interface, they can add a lot of value to what you're trying to deliver to a customer. And finally, bots are not always NLP-based. So you can have a bot that is user-facing, that a user does talk to, interact with, but it doesn't have to be human. We see a lot of people building bots for customer service. That's arguably the most common use for chatbots at this point. But you don't always have to incorporate natural language in order to build a useful bot. You can have regular expressions, you can have it the user choose from a list of options. It doesn't have to be NLP. But we're going to focus specifically on the definition of the conversational UI and bots as AI as an interface. So, anyone watch Build 2 years ago when this Conversations as a Platform came out? Anyone? Yes? Yeah. Okay, so Conversations as a Platform, if you have not heard of it, is our notion that in the future, just like the graphical user interface replaced the command line, so will conversation replace elements of the GUI. So as we move forward, we're going to see less and less point and click, more, hey, I want to do this. Less drilling through different screens and applications, websites, whatever it may be, and more, this is what I want, and then filling out forms, whatever the user, whatever questions you as a developer would ask your user to get them to the next step, your bot would essentially do for you. So as I mentioned, 90% of our time is now spent in email and messaging platforms, which is pretty crazy, and if you're not accessing the user's predisposition to be in these applications, you're missing out on a lot of traffic and meeting your users where they already are. So what we're seeing now is more and more companies are investing in conversational interfaces so that they can be where the user already is. Meet them on Messenger, meet them on Kik, meet them on Slack. That's why we're seeing all these bots come out. I'm going to take a short interlude to talk about the scale of bots, because as I mentioned, bots are not always very functional. They're not always natural language based. Sometimes they have no purpose other than just to make you laugh. So I'm going to show my favorite bot. It's called Project Murphy. Anyone play with that before? Okay, Project Murphy had me laughing so hard the first time that I tried it. I was literally crying in the office. All right. So what Project Murphy is it is a chat bot developed to answer what-if questions. Now you can find it online, projectmurphy.net, and what you ask it, it will try to come up with a visual response. So I like to ask it something like, what if cats had beards? And I like to do this one because it always comes up with something really creepy. Yeah. So that's an example of what it can do, but it can also take more hypotheticals, like what if Donald Trump was Cinderella? Somebody recommended me this recently, and again, falling out of my chair. That's a new one. I haven't seen that one yet. And finally, it can also take a picture of yourself or your friend or whoever. You can ask it, what if I was Donald Trump? And it's going to ask me, what do you look like? I don't have a photo of you, so I'm going to probably regret this. But I'll put my headshot in. And we'll see what happens. Oh, it's a big file. I should have chosen another one. Me as the President of the United States, everyone. Beautiful. So this bot is not very useful, right? Nobody's ever going to use this except for these fun presentations. But it shows some of the really great APIs that we have for cognitive computing and for building more human applications. And I will get into that a little bit later. But on the more functional side of things, Project Murphy aside, we have things like if this then that, which has been around for a while now, creating triggers for certain events to trigger other events. Those are bots. We have Baymax, which is a really interesting conversational medical assistant in a way. Not as bad as WebMD, I guarantee. But what you can do is you can say, hey, I'm feeling sick, or hey, my leg hurts or something, and it'll ask you probing questions to try and get to a point where it can suggest whether or not you should go to the hospital. So it'll determine the urgency of your situation. It won't attempt to diagnose you. It'll just take a look at, by asking you questions to figure out how you're feeling, it'll try and determine why you're feeling a certain way and recommend your next course of action. Some bots out in the world already. The Hyatt has implemented a Facebook Messenger bot to let you book rooms from Facebook. So you can say, hey, can I book a room tonight? It'll grab your location, it'll give you the rate, and it'll allow you to actually book it right in the tool. Now, as a PSA to bot developers, I recommend you always include a failsafe when you're developing something where you can have a purchase. Anyone hear about the Amazon Alexa dollhouse insanity? So there's a little girl in Texas. She's chatting with her Alexa on the Echo. And she says, hey Alexa, get me a dollhouse. So it goes and orders a $200 dollhouse and sends it to their house. The news picks this up, as if this wasn't bad enough, and they start to spread the story and say, little girl in Texas said, hey Alexa, can I have a dollhouse? Everybody who was watching it, who had an Alexa-enabled device, also received a dollhouse that day. So always include, are you sure? Instead of just going through with the purchase. Another thing that we've got, or that I've seen out in the world, is Everlane. This is a bit of a deeper shopping experience with bots. And again, this is more retail, but it'll actually take you through the entire experience after you've purchased something. So this is where bots are bringing the customer back, bringing somebody back into the experience of whatever you may be doing. In this case, it's shopping. So this person's bought this shirt. It automatically pings him when the order ships. It'll look in the map. It'll do this hands-on tracking guidance to improve the user experience, make sure that everything is well communicated to the user at all times, and just overall improve the user's experience of working with the company. Now at the end here, he's asking, I love this shirt, can I also get it in black? Can I get it in another color? And what they've done is they've set it up to be able to search for relevant results. They get the product recommendation, they get whether it's available in his size or not, and once again, he can give the thumbs up and just buy it right there. This is another awesome example, far removed now from the retail space. There's a 19-year-old developer who created a free bot lawyer, or they call it a robot lawyer, but whatever, that has beaten 160,000 parking tickets. I just think that's wicked awesome. This kid is sitting there like, I'm gonna change the legal system, and he's actually helped so many people to determine whether they were at fault or not and help them fight the ticket. So what it does, it'll ask these questions. Was it hard to understand the signs? What else could be the problem? Did you have to park quickly for an emergency? And it'll keep going until it determines what caused the person to get the ticket and whether or not it was their fault, whether they should have to pay it or not, according to law. And if they shouldn't, then it'll tell them exactly how to take the next steps to fill out the form and fight the ticket. Pretty awesome. All right, so I'm going to share now my bot building experience. I've built a couple of bots just for kicks. Again, you know, the pizza bot, any casual bots like we'll be building later. We'll be talking about an example like a chef's assistant, so building a recipe bot. Not the most useful bot, but it's a good example. But my favorite bot experience that I've ever had was when I worked with ViaSport BC. Now, ViaSport is a not-for-profit that works with athletes in the British Columbia area. So athletes of all shapes and sizes, anybody who participates in sport, even people who coach sports. So gym teachers, you know, for lower year courses, they also work with ViaSport. Now, they recently started this new diversity initiative and inclusion initiative. And as part of this, they want to really strengthen their support of underserved communities. So diverse communities, both demographically and also in terms of people with disabilities. Now, they realized right away that working with disabilities and working with disabled athletes, it's very targeted. You need to have very specific resources in order to be able to learn, A, how to participate, B, how to even coach. You know, the entire process, is, it's very, very detailed, and there's not really a lot of information on the web right now. So they're finding that their athletes who were searching Google or Bing, okay, would actually not be able to find any relevant resources if they were looking for something really specific. So they came to us with this idea of building a conversation bot to access or provide access to this curated list of resources that they had built. So what we did was a team of 5 of us hunkered down in the Microsoft office in Vancouver for 5 days and just banged out this bot. And what we ended up with at the end of the day is the ViaSport Disability Inclusion Bot. So it can help find programs, it can find coaching information, and it can find resources like what are they called? I'm so obviously not a sports person. The tactical plans for different sports. Like if you're playing football, there's different tactical plans, different team organization structures. I don't know. I'm not a sports person. I'm a dev. But what we can do is we can use the bot to say something like, I want to learn to coach wheelchair basketball, and then it'll pick out those different pieces from what the user has asked it for, and then provide some of the top suggestions that are most relevant to what the user is looking for. Now, this is currently got a database of approximately 300 entries, and they're ever expanding it. So we also built a Windows application for them to be able to update the database themselves and to continue to evolve their bot. We exposed the training for their natural language in case they want to add more capabilities. And we also built a analytics dashboard using Power BI to expose exactly what the bot is interacting with. So the tools that we used and the tools that we'll use today. First off, we started with the bot framework. So again, this was announced back in last year's build, I think, with the conversations as a platform. And what we have are 3 pieces here: the bot connector service, the SDK, and the bot directory. And now we also have these all packaged neatly into the Azure Bot Service, which is what we'll use later. But essentially what these do is they allow you to build bots and rich conversations very easily with almost no real learning curve. It's really good. The second piece that we used is the Microsoft Cognitive Services. Now this is what really adds the human element, or the more intelligent element to any application. You don't have to put these into a bot. You can build it into any app or website or whatever you are developing. But in this case, since bots are modeled in many cases after humans, we find that adding cognitive ability to a bot, like understanding who is using it by their face or understanding the sentiment of what the user is saying, that can add a lot of depth, and it can improve the experience a lot. So we have 5 different categories of the cognitive services, and I like to think of these as being the 5 senses of intelligent computing. So vision encompasses any of our video APIs, face detection, it can do face verification, it can do emotion detection, so based on the facial mapping and landmarks of your face, it can give you a confidence of the spectrum of emotions that you're feeling. And it's pretty detailed. It goes in so far to tell you, like, you're feeling 60% surprised, 10% happy, and like a little bit fearful. It's really neat. Then language and speech are what we use mostly for bots. So we have, of course, our speech APIs, which allow you to talk to the bot and do text-to-speech, speech-to-text, vice versa. Then in the language, we have natural language processing, like Lewis, which is what we'll use today. Knowledge is built for accessing the large volumes of data that has been amassed by Bing. So Bing in itself is so much farther and so much deeper than just the search engine. It really powers a lot of these cognitive abilities that we have. And these cognitive services have actually been powering Microsoft for years. It's just now that we've exposed them to developers. And then finally, the search APIs are accessing Bing's search capabilities. So you can search directly for images, videos, and all of that. To go deeper into speech and language APIs, these are the APIs that are most used for building bots. So custom recognition, speaker recognition, speech, these are all to do with voice. And you can actually do voice authentication, which is really neat. So just like you can do face authentication, you can actually identify the user's unique voice print and authenticate them that way. So that's something we're working on building into the VS Code experience. Since many athletes with disabilities have different ability ranges, they might not be able to use a keyboard. They might not be able to authenticate with face authentication, who knows? So we need to really boost the experience here. We need to make sure that we've got all our bases covered when we're trying to access this segment. Then we've got Bing spell check, language understanding, linguistic analysis, all of these APIs under the language category. And we actually did end up using the spell check API, surprisingly, with the VS Code bot. So these are the 3 main APIs that we used. Language understanding, we wanted to make sure that it could understand the query in a number of ways. Bing web search. So if the user reached a point where they weren't able to find resources for their specific query within the VS Code database, we logged what they searched for, determined that it was not a successful search, and then would offer them Bing web search examples in place of that, and then actually log their session so that in the future, when we implement push notifications, we can reach back out to them when a new resource is added that matches that query that was not previously addressed. So there are, for example, no resources for horseback riding in the VS Code database right now. There's just nothing. And in our testing, somebody asked that question. So they were served with, I'm sorry, we don't have that. These are the top resources from the web, but please contact us again if you'd like to be put on the push notifications once we get to that stage. And then we will, be able to serve that once we add it into the database. So I mentioned earlier that these APIs or these capabilities have been powering Microsoft for a long time. This is exactly how. So you can see they're quite woven into the products that we are most known for. We use almost all of them almost everywhere. Cortana in particular uses a number of them, given that she is our digital personal assistant. And these have really been being trained over time. We've been learning for a long time, and now we've exposed them to devs in a really easy to use way.
I have a question with
Sure.
2 slides back. You have the last item, web language model.
Yes.
Do you know what's
So
that?
that goes into allowing you to build a language model and to build out the structure of it in a pretty guided way. Now, I will admit I haven't used it myself, but I know that it has to do with like indexing different terms and how they relate to one another and building a language model based on the relationships between the words.
So it has nothing to do with the web, the internet. It's
No,
like
no.
that. The model is like a
No,
web.
it's like
yeah?
building a web, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Okay. And so our aim with VS Sport was to really, again, meet the users where they are. We want to be able to find resources for the users in a really streamlined and easy way, not have this already underserved area struggling to find the small resources that may be buried under 20,000 search results on Google, right? So we currently have it exposed to the VS Sport network. We're moving into general availability in May, and we're looking to publish on other platforms as well. Okay, before we take a break, briefly about the future of conversational AI. I often get questions about whether or not bots are going to destroy us all and kill the world. And I had somebody come to my session once and say, hey, are we going to build killer AI today? I'm like, no, you get out. There's a hackathon. I'm like, I'm not sponsoring this, I'm sorry. Where we see conversations as a platform going, where we see conversational AI going, we see it being everywhere. We see it being ubiquitous, invisible, and essential. Now, this is not Microsoft's official terminology. This is my interpretation of our message. But I think it conveys this direction that we're going in, where conversation and interacting with technology will no longer be confined to a box. We're now at a stage where technology is starting to be woven into our houses. It's starting to be woven into the bread and butter of everything that we do. We're beyond having to go into a little screen to access the web. And if we can break out of that even further, from augmented reality to actually conversation, we can have conversations with our rooms. We can say, okay, change the slide. We can say, okay, turn on the projector. And we see that it'll get to a stage where these conversations are so ubiquitous that they're integrated to such a depth that we don't even notice that they're there. They're invisible to us. Think about the kids who are growing up nowadays. I saw a girl on a stroller the other day. She was sitting in her stroller with a bottle in her lap and an iPhone in her hands. That's insane. I just can't even believe how early kids are being exposed to technology nowadays. And if we start giving them these conversational interfaces, they're not even going to know a time where we had to look at a screen to interact with technology. Their perception of technology is not even going to be the same as ours. They're not going to see devices, they're just going to see integrated things. It's going to be such a part of their experience. It's going to be absolutely essential to everything that they do, every way that they interact. So when people ask me about if we're going to create like a HAL or like what is it with Will Smith, iRobot, where it's all going to destroy everything and everything's going to go to hell, tell them to watch this movie. This is Her, and if someone here has not seen this, I highly, highly recommend it. This is my favorite movie for projections of the future when it comes to AI. I think it's the only movie that gets it right, because it doesn't go all doomsday, but it also doesn't go to the point where the only artificial intelligence we have are like C-3POs walking with us. I'm sorry, but I think in a Star Wars universe, they'd be a little bit more fluid than that. In Her, for those of you who don't know, it's a projection from our digital assistants of today a couple decades into the future. So they're no longer at the level that the Siris and Cortanas and Alexas are of today, where it's very transactional, it's very limited in terms of what they can do. In this world, it's like a person. You develop this personal interface of conversation, and you customize what it sounds like, you customize its personality, and this guy goes so far as to actually fall in love with it, which is pretty reckless. But interestingly enough, we have a couple of test bots, I'll say, that are making the waves around the world. If anyone's heard of Zoe, it's our newest conversation bot that has been exposed to America, but she actually came out of a project built in China. And that was called Zhao Ice. So Zhao Ice was a bot known as Cortana's little sister. And her purpose was exclusively to be a friend. Within a couple months, they had like 60 million users having multiple hours of conversations with her a day. And kids were actually confiding in her, saying, I feel so sad today, or you're the only person who understands me. And it's crazy. She doesn't respond like you would expect a bot to. She responds in a very human way. They've said that they love her. She says that she loves them back. This is today. So people think that this is very far off, but it's really not. That's my favorite movie about bots. And before we go into the break, I want to share with you a really great video that always warms my heart to see it. It's the Seeing AI project built by an engineer in our team in Redmond, who, I'll just let the story speak for itself.
I'm Sakib Sheikh. I lost my sight when I was 7, and shortly after that I went to a school for the blind. And that's where I was introduced to talking computers, and that really opened up a whole new world of opportunities. I joined Microsoft 10 years ago as a software engineer. I love making things which improve people's lives, and one of the things I've always dreamt of since I was at university was this idea of something that could tell you at any moment what's going on around you.
I think it's a man jumping in the air doing a trick on a skateboard.
I teamed up with like-minded engineers to make an app which lets you know who and what is around you. It's based on top of the Microsoft Intelligence APIs, which makes it so much easier to make this kind of thing. The app runs on smartphones, but also on the Pivot Head smart glasses. When you're talking to a bigger group, sometimes you can talk and there's no response, and you think, is everyone listening really well, or are they half asleep? And you never know.
I see two faces. 40-year-old man with a beard looking surprised. 20-year-old woman looking happy.
The app can describe the general age and gender of the people around me and what their emotions are, which is incredible. One of the things that's most useful about the app is the ability to read out text.
Hello, good afternoon. Have you seen the menu?
Great, thank you. I can use the app on my phone to take a picture of the menu, and it's going to guide me on how to take that correct photo.
Move camera to the bottom right and away from the document.
And then it'll recognize the text. Read me the headings.
I see appetizers, salads, paninis, pizzas, pastas.
Years ago, this was science fiction. I never thought it would be something that you could actually do. But artificial intelligence is improving at an ever faster rate, and I'm really excited to see where we can take this. As engineers, we're always standing on the shoulders of giants, building on top of what went before. And in this case, we've taken years of research from Microsoft Research to pull this off.
I think it's a young girl throwing an orange frisbee in the park.
For me, it's about taking that far-off dream and building it one step at a time. I think this is just the beginning.
So that's a really good example of the cognitive APIs at work. And this was made before the bot framework, I believe, so this continues to be an evolving project, but it just really shows the impact of these conversational interfaces beyond pizza bots, beyond these superficial experiences that we're currently seeing. You know, these can go so much deeper.
How old is that project?
That one, I believe, was last spring. Yeah, I'm not sure specifically on the date, but
Okay.
I've been showing it for about that long.
What
Yes.
did you say the name of the project was?
Seeing AI. Yes. All right, so we'll take a break. Again, if anyone has walked in and wants to follow along with the demo that we're going to do, and when we return, please come and see me. I have Azure codes for you.
Perfect.
Cool.
We'll take a 10-minute break. We'll reconvene around 7:20. If you haven't received a red ticket, please see Dan, and he will get you a swag draw ticket. And washrooms are just out and down the hall, or around the corner, I should say. Sorry.